Now, this collection of his Maxims was published in Paris in 1827 and almost immediately was translated into German, English, Spanish, and Italian. Stonewall Jackson carried these Maxims in his haversack throughout his campaign. This little volume, states Colonel Henderson, who is Jackson's biography, contains a fairly complete exposition in Napoleon's own words of the grand principles of war. And then the person that actually compiled the Maxims, and this is a statement that is very similar to what I started off talking about, what I like to learn about. The art of war is susceptible of being considered under two titles. The one, which rests entirely on the knowledge and genius of the commander. The other, on matters of detail. Now, here they're going to break that down a little bit further. The first is the same for all time, for all peoples, whatever arms with which they fight. From this, it follows that the same principles have directed the great captains of all centuries. So that's what I like to read about. Those same principles that have directed the great captains of all centuries. Those basic principles, and a lot of those have to do with human nature. And then it goes on to say that the matters of detail, and what he's talking about, matters of details, he's talking about tactics, on the contrary, are subject to the influence of time, to the spirit of the people, and the character of armor. And so, that's when you change from having bow and arrows to rifles to machine guns to bombs to whatever. And so there are drastic changes in those tactics. And that's why, while they interest me, and I always like to find a common thread in tactics and say, oh, that's the same thing that we do, that they did in World War I, we do that now, or whatever. I'm always looking to find that thread, but sometimes it can be hard to find, and sometimes it doesn't exist to any great degree. Whereas the way people act and the way human beings respond to combat situations, it doesn't change as much.
Yeah, you would think if you go deep enough or fundamental enough that it's not surprising that it won't change, because you're dealing with people and their needs, and like almost on a biological level, like psychologically, a lot of times biologically, preservation of life plays a big part. So yeah, technology can advance, even social stuff can advance, but those fundamental needs typically stay the same for people.
And you're right, but if you think about this, and we talked about this last time, like with World War I, these basic needs for survival, these men just threw them out the window. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. They disregarded that drive and just went over the top into hell and into machine gun fires.
Does that kind of go along the lines with something that is still here in a big way, where they kind of put their own personal needs, whether their need to survive personally, they put the need for their mission or their honor to survive, they put that in front of their need to survive personally, and doesn't that kind of translate even now? That's how soldiers are.
Yes. I mean, I guess if we say that's a normal human trait, which I don't know if it is or not, that I think it's something that gets learned. I don't think it's a inherent normal trait, unless you say, look, people have an inherent trait to make their tribe, their family survive, then maybe that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. So military culture, especially when you deal with the elite, where doing a good job, to put it lightly, doing a good job is very important. You would think that culture cultivates that need to put the mission in front of my own personal stuff so deep into that individual that it does most of the time trump their need to personally survive.
You're right. And that thread, actually, we can go through all of history and find a thread of groups of people that sacrificed and put the mission or the group ahead of themselves.
Right.
Yes. I mean, look at Thermopylae with the the 300 Spartans. I mean, that's a classic example.
Yeah, and
they
even
stood and fought and died for their country.
Yeah, and even people who aren't in the military, we understand that that's how elite soldiers are. You know, we understand that. Oh yeah, that's an elite soldier, one who will put his life on the line for the mission, for the country. Like, we all understand that.
And you use the term elite, but I will not use the term elite because I've seen every soldier who wouldn't be considered elite.
Right.
I've seen them all do that. Marines do that, and U.S. Army soldiers, and you know, the untrained reservist that doesn't really, hasn't been through the kind of training that we have at all, but they will have that. So it has nothing to do really with, which actually proves your point even more, is that it doesn't even have to do with your level of training or your so-called being elite. It has to do with your dedication to the mission and the people that are with you. So
but yeah, I guess a better word than elite would be, I guess, just like a dedicated soldier, or just a soldier in general.
Yes. So back to the book here.